A couple of questions, two questions really. And the first is about what messages matter, because one of the things that worry us is that we're hearing conflicting messages from this administration about Russia. And so I'll just put this to you, General Breedlove. There's been a lot of praise here for Ambassador Haley's remarks on Russia and Ukraine, and I share that praise. But 2 days after she made her remark, President Trump was asked about the Russian presence in eastern Ukraine, and his response was, "We don't really know exactly what that is. They're pro-forces. We don't know, are they uncontrollable, are they controlled? That happens also. We're going to find out. I would be surprised, but we'll see." I don't really know what that means, but it was widely reported that he was casting doubt at the highest levels of the American government on whether there were Russian control and command or Russian involvement in the forces in eastern Ukraine. So I guess my question is this. Who are the Russians listening to, right? Are they listening to Nikki Haley, or are they listening to President Trump?
I was giving my colleague a chance to jump into that one. Senator levity was not intended. It's just I was giving a moment there.
No.
I'm happy to wait.
Sir, if you would allow, there are two messages that matter to me, and they are completely disconnected from any of the current political conversations. The two messages I've been delivering for a long time. The first message, as it relates to Russia, is the solidarity of the NATO alliance. Mm-hmm. What they fear most is an indivisible NATO. What Mr. Putin tries to do every day is find ways to find cracks in NATO to divide it and therefore render it neutral. And so the first and foremost and most important message I ever saw, and I watched the Wales summit come to it early, is the absolute solidarity of our alliance and commitment to Article 5.
But isn't that, I guess my point is, isn't that evidence of a pretty significant crack when the President of the United States casts doubt on whether the Russians are controlling or involved in forces in eastern Ukraine?
It is, yes, it is. It is. It's worrisome to our allies because they're not exactly sure which narrative is the right one. They're hearing conflicting messages when it comes to the EU, NATO, and Russia repeatedly among cabinet members of this administration and the president. And what they're waiting for is some clarity on which view will prevail. Will what we heard from Ambassador Nikki Haley recently about Ukraine and Russia hold to be true, or will we in fact see an administration and a president moving towards a grand bargain? This is of deep concern to our European allies. I meet, like you, regularly with delegations, with ambassadors coming through from Europe. They do not like what they're hearing right now coming from our president in terms of an unwillingness to call out the Russians for what they've done and what they're doing, and an unwillingness, it appears, to stand with the EU during this very turbulent and difficult time.
May I jump on the second part?
Sure.
As it relates to Ukraine, I think that the most important message is that everything that has happened there is completely illegitimate and outside the boundaries of the norms we expect by nations in Europe. Russia has put force back on the table to change internationally recognized borders in European landmass, and I think that's unacceptable. And I think those messages don't change based on any of the...
I just bring it back to the chairman's point. To the extent there are mixed messages, it's more important than ever that messages coming from Congress and this committee are as clear